Okay, this is LAN-WAN. We started the WAN part today. WAN's used to access broad areas. When we talked briefly, we didn't go through all the details in the curriculum, but we talked about branch offices, remote teleworkers, and allowing outside vendors and so forth. We talked about providers offering a certain amount of bandwidth to make our connections, and we talked a little bit about serial connections. We reviewed the whole idea of hierarchical networks, core distribution and access layers, and what happens on each of those. We covered that briefly. That was a review. And then we talked about DTE, physical layer standards. We talked about DCE, like a DSU, CSU, or a modem. The local loop into, and in here I did an example of frame relay in there. Then the data communications equipment and data terminal equipment on the other end. The connections going through, we could have a leased line, a dedicated line, which we pay for up all the time. We can have ATM, frame relay, and a number of others. I'm going to show you here in a minute. The protocols to make the connections. Switch packets, we can buy SDN and public switch telephone network, in which we can use the current phone system in order to do our communications. Plus there's some others that we talked about. We also talked about that DMARC, and I'll mention that again here in a little bit in terms of that connection. The protocols, HDLC, PPP, frame relay, ATM, MPLS. We just talked briefly about those. All the protocols we can use to encapsulate the information to send it across, and remember that encapsulation of those is at layer 2, the data link layer. We talked about the difference between circuit switching, setting up a circuit, a call setup, termination, and so forth, or packet switching. Put the packets in the network, let them find their own way through. Okay. Connection options, we can go with on the right here, a public, set up a VPN to go through the internet, or we can set up private connections through a provider. And we can either get a dedicated line that's up all the time, or we can go the switched method and either have it circuit switched, in which we call, set up a circuit, and the circuit's up, and then we tear the circuit down, or packet switch. We put the packets into the network and let them work their way through, like the internet works. We talked about a few other things. I gave an example of time division multiplexing, where we used to it had some schools in Sioux Falls that connected to a mini computer in Watertown, and they used multiplexing to send those signals back and forth to that computer. We looked a little bit on how the network here at NIACC, the fundamental parts of that's hooked up, and I showed a little bit of a physical layout of how those things are connected. Students worked on some configurations. I emphasized the point of making sure their serial connections are up and working before they start changing protocols or putting security features on. And then we redrew this same diagram and reviewed some of the topics dealing with that network, the whole idea of setting up a network. We're going to review that some more, finish that up on Tuesday, take the test for the first chapter, and then try to get through as much of PPP on Tuesday that we can. That's it.